Welcome to this first session of the fourth Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We will start with the gratitude towards the Lord, through whose grace all this is possible. Also we pray for and pay our tributes and respects to the Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge has been passing on since generations. I'd like to pay my respects and tributes to our Guruji, Guruma, through whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and pass on this understanding to you. We will start with the prayers. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karva Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So before starting the fourth Adhyaya, let us recapitulate what Lord Shri Krishna has said in the first to the third Adhyaya. The first Adhyaya is mainly the foundation of Sri Bhagavad Gita, gives us the understanding of who is the Adhikari of this Atma Gnana or the self-knowledge that Sri Krishna discloses in the second Adhyaya. And over here we can see, so before going on to the fourth Adhyaya, let us recapitulate what we have what Lord Shri Krishna has disclosed in the first to the third Adhyaya so far. The first Adhyaya is the foundation of Sri Bhagavad Gita and talks about the Adhikaritva for this Atma Gnana, what Shri Krishna discloses in the second Adhyaya. And this Adhikaritva, we can see here that Arjuna is the Adhikari for this Atma Gnana, because Lord Krishna makes him the instrument to give his Updesha, his teachings of the self-knowledge, the Atma Gnana, to the entire humanity through Arjuna. And as we know, Arjuna came in a full spirit. He wanted to fight this war against all the adharmis that he thought, Duryodhana and all the Kauravas. However, when he started to see all his relatives in his opponent army, that is when he developed this moha, this asakti, this attachment, this mamatva, that these are my own, how can I wage a war against them, how can I kill my respected Bhishma, Drona. And our scriptures tell us that the moola or the root cause of these moha attachments is ajnana, ignorance, which is there in us since times immemorial. And this ajnana does not allow us to clearly differentiate between what is dharma, what is adharma, means what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. And this does not allow us to see Paramatma clearly, what is that. So Arjuna is the main worthy person who is worthy of this Atma Gnana, because he is the person who has this viveka, or he has a discrimination of what is dharma, what is adharma, and what is beyond this, what is seen, what is Paramatma. He accepts Shishyatva or disciplehood of Sri Paramatma, Sri Krishna, and thus he is a worthy disciple. Whereas though Duryodhana and the Kauravas are also faced in the similar situation, they do not have this viveka, they don't have this discrimination, they don't have this Paramatma Vritti towards Lord Shri Krishna, and that's why they are not the Adhikaritva for this Atma Gnana. In the second Adhyaya, the main subject matter is Atma Gnana, the self-knowledge, which Lord Krishna starts from the 11th shloka. From the first to the 10th shloka, Arjuna, his grief, his miseries is talked about. And then in the 7th mantra, Arjuna accepts the disciplehood of Shri Krishna. And then he tells him that whatever is best for me, you tell me what I should do, what I should not do. I am confused. I don't know what is good for me, what is not good for me. And then the Atma Tattva Updesh starts. Finally, after that, from the 38th shloka, there is a turn of the subject, and it goes more towards the Karma Yoga. In the 47th, 48th shloka, the Karma Yoga principles, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. And then finally, from the 54th shloka, after the Arjuna's questioner, The Sthita Prajna Prakarana starts up to the 72nd shloka when it ends. The third Adhyaya is more of the detailed description of what is Karma Yoga, what are the attitudes of Karma Yoga. Lord described all the different attitudes of Karma Yoga, how we should convert our karma into Karma Yoga, how we should go from Sakam Karma towards Nishkam Karma. And finally, the fourth Adhyaya is the Adhyaya called Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So this means that how with these assimilation of this knowledge, how we can have a karma sannyasa. What is karma sannyasa? What is karma tyaga? But this is through knowledge. This is not karma tyaga in its normal sense as we understand. Karma tyaga means renunciation of karma. That is not what our scriptures tell us. But what our scriptures tell us is that from karma we have to go towards akarma. And akarma is a beautiful word which has been expounded in this adhyaya, and we'll talk about it, understand it in a little bit more detailed understanding, because only then we can understand the meaning of these shlokas, especially the 18th shloka, what is karma, what is akarma, what Lord talks about. So this is in nutshell a summary of the first four adhyayas. Now let us just look at and recapitulate the three attitudes or the 4-5 attitudes of karma yoga in the third adhyaya as Lord Krishna talks about. The first is the attitude of Ishwararpana Bhavana. Something like a yagna buddhi. As we are doing our karma, we give our ahuti. Similarly, we arpan or ishwararpana, all our karmas, whatever we do with the best possible surrender to the Lord, accept His greatness, His sarvagna, and then with this attitude, if we keep doing it in our real daily terms of daily life, how we can do this is remember Him always, nama smarana, during all our karmas that we do. And that is the way we can leave our karmas towards the Lord. The second is that we do our karmas to please the Lord. So we do it in the best possible way, as if we are offering this as our, as being a devotee, as our karma we are offering towards Lord. So this makes us do our karma in the best possible way, in the most meticulous way, because this is to please the Lord. The third is that we do it as if it is the Lord's order, because He is the Lord of the universe. He has created this. He has given me this duty. He has given me this role, this responsibility that I am in, and I should do this as His order, as His agnya, in the best possible way as I can. The fourth is the nimitta bhav, that I am the instrument of this karma that is being done. He is getting all this done through me, and He has given me these roles, these responsibilities, and I should do it at the best possible way. And after I do all these karma with all these attitudes and this bhavana as a duty, as one of the roles in my life, even if I don't believe in the Lord or in the God, but even then this is my duty and I should do it in the best possible way. That is an attitude a nastika, a person who does not believe in God, would adopt this attitude, that this is my duty and this is what I should do it in the best possible way. And when I receive the karma phala, the fruits of the action, I should accept it as a prasada buddhi. That means that I accept whatever comes out of this, and then I share it with all my team members in the best possible way. So with this background, let us start with the fourth adhyaya, which is the Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. In the first 9 shlokas, Lord talks about the Guru Shishya Parampara, how this knowledge is transferred, and it talks about his incarnations, his avatara, and that famous shloka of Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya will come in this in today's subject. And then in the next 9 shlokas, he talks about the Nishkam Karma Yoga, how we can assimilate this knowledge and this karma, and how we can do this karma from that perspective. And then he talks about the Gnani Purusha, his Mahima, and then he praises the knowledge and the knowledge seekers and the knowledgeable person, the wise person. And then in the next session, we are going to talk about the 12 yagnas that Shri Krishna talks about, and out of all these 12 yagnas, he says finally in the 32nd shloka that the Gnan yagna is the best, it is the Shreshta, and one should devote our life for this Gnana yagna. And then finally he talks about Tadvidvi Pranipatena Praniprashnena Sevaya. He talks about the Guru, his Mahima, and then Gnana Mahima Shraddhavan Labate Gnanam. So all these will come in the final session of the fourth adhyaya. So this is the way how the fourth adhyaya is structured. Let us start with the first shloka. In the first shloka, it starts with Sri Bhagavana Uvacha. Normally, the third adhyaya starts with Arjuna's question. He wants to know what is better for him, karma or jnana. That is how the third adhyaya started. But the fourth adhyaya, Lord Krishna talks about Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavahanam Avyayam Vivaswan Manave Praha Manurikshva Kave Pravet. So Lord Krishna talks about the Guru Shishya Parampara, how this tradition of our ancient Indian wisdom is started from the Lord himself, and how it is perpetuating this knowledge through this parampara, which is kept alive by all these wise people who have been knowledgeable in this parampara and who have passed on this knowledge from the lineage. So he talks about this, and he says Imam Avyayam Yogam, this imperishable knowledge, this knowledge parampara or yoga parampara is imperishable. It is avyaya. It can never be destroyed, because self-knowledge, Atma Gnana, can never be destroyed. And he says, Aham Vivasvate Proktavan, means I first gave this knowledge to the sun. Sun is Vivaswan. Vivasvata means the sun god. And sun, and this, he says, he is given before the creation of this universe. So that is the time when sun was created, and this knowledge, the Atma Gnana, was first given to Vivaswan. And Vivaswan Manave Praha. He says Vivaswan, Surya, then passed on this knowledge. He taught to Manu. Manu is considered to be the first human, or the first person who was created on this earth. And he is famous by his Manusmriti. He has written a Manusmriti which gives us the moral code of conduct, how we should live our life. And he is the person who started the human race, and that's why we are all called Manava, because we come from Manu. That's why we are called Manava. And this knowledge was given for the benefit, for the spiritual upliftment of the mankind, so that the man could attain divinity in the lifetime. And this is a religion neutral teaching. It is not concerned with religion. If you see Bhagavad Gita, it is not concerned with any particular religion, but it is a way of life, it's our vision, how we can see this from the vision of the Paramatma. And then Manu Ikshva Kave Bravit. It says Manu gave this knowledge to King Ikshvaku. So Ikshvaku was the first king of the solar dynasty, the Surya Vansh. And in whose Vansha, in whose dynasty Lord Sri Ram, he was born in this Ikshvaku Vansha. So this is how the Kshatriya kings, the kings were Kshatriyas, they were the protectors, but they also got this knowledge, and this knowledge was then used for the benefit of the mankind at large, for the protection of human beings at large. So generally in the knowledge tradition, it was the Brahmana who were considered to be the knowledgeable people, but the Kshatriyas, because they used to protect the mankind, they were also given this knowledge. And God himself through Surya says that I gave it to King Ikshvaku, this knowledge, which was then passed on to the other people. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So in this shloka he says, O Parantapa, Parantapa is O mighty Arjuna. It is named for the Arjuna who can actually, he is a fierce warrior, and that's why I was given this name Parantapa. Evam parampara praptam imam yoga. So in this way, this knowledge tradition has been going on since generations. But what happened is, and he says that the Rajarshayo viduhu. So even the kings knew this. King Ikshvaku, then King Janaka also become enlightened. Many other kings had this self-knowledge. They had Atma Gnana so that they could protect their praja in a better way. And then Mahata Kalena Saha Yoga Iha Nashtaha. Means he says as the time went by, this knowledge became nearly extinct. It does not mean it was completely extinct. This knowledge, he already said that it is avyaya. It can never become completely extinct. But it become iha nashtaha, means it become nearly extinct. And that the reason is because people become more and more bahirmukha and ati vyasta, because people started becoming very busy in their worldly affairs. And this knowledge requires a lot of time, energy, a lot of people need to be antarmukha, means they have to go inwards. If we are bahirmukha, if we just see the worldly things, then we cannot understand this is knowledge. We have to go more inwards, and that's why the spiritual journey is more going inwards. And if we are too occupied in our worldly affairs, then we won't have time to understand these scriptures, these principles, this understanding, and then we cannot apply it in our life, we cannot assimilate it with our life, and that's why this knowledge became nearly extinct, he says. And probably he is giving, making a foundation for why Lord incarnates, why he takes a human form on this earth, and why he comes in a kind of a personified way. And that he gives one of his reasons here. Sa evayam maya teghya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam yetaduttamam. So he says, Sa eva ayam puratana yoga, the same original yoga, the knowledge which I had given to Sun in the beginning of this world. He says, Maya te proktaha adyaha. So he says, today I am going to tell you the same knowledge, or I am already told you. So I am telling you, because this is when he started his second adhyaya. It's the same day in the Mahabharata where Lord Krishna is talking to Arjuna and giving this Atma Gnana. So it is the same day, Adya. Adya means today. So today I am telling you the same old ancient wisdom which I have told Vivaswan or Sun God at the beginning of the universe. In the same, because in the spiritual paradigms there is no change. We have to learn the same things, and it is the same Puratan yoga which we don't have to change. It is Avyaya, it is imperishable. And he says why he is telling Arjuna. He gives reasons. He says, Iti me bhaktaha cha sakha asi. Because you are my devotee, you are my bhakta, and you are also my friend. And our Guruji explains to us that it is important, it is almost compulsory that we must be a devotee to get this knowledge. And Lord himself tells in the 18th Adhyaya, after the 66th sloka, where he completes his Updesha, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. In the 67th shloka, Lord Krishna says that this is a rahasyamay Updesha, and it should not be told or disclosed to 4 types of people. Somebody who does not have nas tapaskaya, means who does not have tapa, does not have shraddha, does not have has asuya, means who has dosha vritti, and who is not a bhakta, na bhaktaya. So he says somebody who is not a devotee is not worthy of this self-knowledge, is Atma Gnana. And because Lord Krishna has been a friend or a sakha of Arjuna for almost the entire life, except just on the 7th sloka of the he accepted the disciplehood or Shishyatvahood, and he accepted Shri Krishna as his master, as a guru, as a not yet as a Bhagwan probably, but still as a guru, and that's why he wants to know what is the best thing. He etat uttamam rahasyam. He says, because this is a profound secret. It is, this knowledge is not to be explained to everyone, because it's a profound secret, and it is to be best to be kept hidden. So it is not that one has to hide this knowledge and should not say it. The meaning is not that. The meaning is that in the worldly affairs, when we keep anything secret or hidden, it is generally for our own selfish interest, that we probably want to develop a patent or an intellectual property right. We don't want it to disclose to anyone so that we can gain out of it. That is the purpose. But in the spiritual realms, when God says that this is a deep kept secret, it means that it should only be disclosed to somebody who is a worthy of this patra, who is worthy of this kind of a Atma Gnana or self-knowledge. And everybody is not worthy of this knowledge. So somebody who is having a desire to learn, jignasa, one who wants to learn, it should only be disclosed to that person who has a desire to learn. And this is what Lord Krishna already has said, Lokesmin dvida nishta pura proktam. He says karma nishta, karma yogena, karma yoga and gnana yoga. These are the 2 nishtha that he has described already in the 3rd adhyaya. And he's already described how you need this kind of antakarana shuddhi on this spiritual path before you can go on to the gnana sadhana. And he already said that there are 2 life approaches. One is a gruhastha marg, the karma yoga preference, where it is a preferred marg, because most of us are adhikari who are suitable, we are worthy only of Karma Yoga, because we are all so much attached to our karma. We all do our karmas for almost all the part of our life, and that's why most of us are adhikaritva for Karma Yoga, because what we have to do is from karma we have to go towards Karma Yoga, and this is what is a preferred marg according to Lord Krishna. However, he also says that there is a Gnana Marga, there's a Sannyasa Marga, and the Nivritti Marga, but very few people are adhikari, are suitable for this marg, who already have developed Antakarana Shuddhi. They don't have much desires to achieve something from this outer world, and those are the people who can go on to this marg. They can take sannyasa, they can go on to this marg and just go on to the yoga sadhana. And this is, according to Lord Krishna, the Gruhastha Marg is a safe marg, because the Karma Yoga is something that we are all have a lot of sanskaras about Karma Yoga, whereas Sannyasa Marg is adhikaritva is very rare. So with this, the next shloka, Arjuna asks a question. It's a very innocent question, and it shows that Arjuna has some kind of a doubt in his mind. And it says, Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha kathame tattvijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. So he says, Arjuna asks this innocent question. He says, how is this possible that bhavataha janma aparam, you have been born recently, you've just been born few years ago of Vasudeva and Devaki. I know you have been childhood friends. I know that you have been born recently. And Vivaswataha Janma Param, Vivaswata's son was born thousands of years ago. I mean, how is it possible? How can I understand? Ete Katham Vijaniyam Tvam Adau Etat Proktavan, means that you only gave in the beginning of this world, you gave this same knowledge to son. How is it possible? You are born now and son has been born thousands of years ago. So how is it possible that you only gave the same message? So it's a very innocent question from Arjuna to Shri Krishna, to which Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vittha parantapa. So here Shri Krishna shows his all-knowing Sarvagnya, that he is the Ishvara, and the Jiva, who is the Alpagnya, who can know only very little. He doesn't know everything. That is what is disclosed in this shloka. He says, Oh Parantapa Arjuna, Bahuni me vatitani janmani. I have taken many births previously, he says. Tavacha Arjuna, and you also have taken, Arjuna, like a Jiv takes many births. He goes through many births and deaths, this cycle of birth and death. Thani Sarvani, all these previous births. He says, Aham Veda. Bhagavan says, I know of all these previous births. Natvam Vedha, means you don't know all these births. You don't know your previous birth because you are a Jiva. Arjuna, you have a limited understanding. You cannot know your previous birth, what is going to be the future, what is the past, what is all your births. But being Lord, being Ishvara, I know all the births of all the jivas. I know everything because I am Sarvagna. And this also shows that Ishvara knows he is a karma dhyaksha, karma phala data. He all these karma phala laws are through him, and he maintains this universe. He creates and maintains this universe, and he creates and maintains this the cycle of birth and death of all the jivas. So all these, Lord Krishna, he says, Aham Veda, Natvam Veda. So that is the difference mainly between the Jiva and the Ishvara. In the next three shlokas, he talks about his Avatara Prakaran, how Bhagavan takes a human form on this earth, and what is his true self, and how he takes a human form in the sixth shloka. In the seventh shloka, he talks about when does he incarnate, when does he take form on this universe, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. And in the 8th shloka, he says why he needs to take form, why he needs to incarnate, what is the purpose behind God's incarnation. So they are very beautiful 3 shlokas, and they are also can be called as an avatar prakarana. In the 6th shloka, he says, Ajopi sanna vyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakrutim swamadhishtaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. So here God says that he takes birth on this earth, he incarnates, he takes a human form, But what is his real self and how he takes incarnation? He talks about this. He says, Ajaha api, son avyaya atma api. He says, even though I am unborn, I am ajaha, I am unborn, and I am avyayatma. I am, imperishable. There is no difference. There is no change. There is no destruction. There is no vikar. He is avikari. Even though I am avikari, even then I take birth and I take form. Because in the form and in the birth, there is always change. There is always destruction, creation, some destruction, and then there is finally death. But here Lord says, I am ajaha api, means I am unborn, I don't die, I am not born. He is talking from his true, real Paramatma Swarup, the mool, his original Swarup, which is beyond this, what can be seen. It is the imperishable Atma Swarup that Paramatma has, that is talking from that Swarup. He says, even though my real Swarup is unborn, ajaha avyaya, Bhutanam Ishvara api san, even though I am the Lord of all the beings, he says, even then, Prakrutim Swam Adhishtaya, I take Prakriti, the nature, under my control through Maya. And this is how Lord takes birth. He shows here how he takes birth. He takes the control, help of Maya, which is under his control. And with this, an unborn Ishvara becomes a Saguna Ishvara. So Nirguna, from Nirguna, how Saguna comes into this existence. That is how he shows here. And it will also show the difference between the Jiva and the Ishvara. Jiva is under the control. Jiva also he takes birth from the Maya, the Prakriti. But there is a difference between Jiva and Ishvara. We'll come to that in a short while. Sambhavami, I manifest, I incarnate, I take form whenever I wish. Atma Mayaya, with my own powers of Maya. So this Maya Shakti also is created by Ishvara, and with this Shakti he takes a birth from a Nirguna Nirakara Swarupa to Saguna Sakara Swarupa. That is how he shows in this what is his real Swarupa and how he takes birth. In the next shloka, which is a very famous shloka of Sri Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna talks about the difference between the human birth and the incarnation. He says how the humans are born. Of course, humans also take birth because of the karma. And there is this karma chakra or the sansar chakra which goes on. We do karma, we get karma phala. Karma phala gives rise to samskaras, the beach. And these sanchita karmas, they remain with us, which are the cause for all our future births. So basically, essentially, human birth is because of the karma. But God takes form or incarnates not due to karma. He himself only said that he is above this karma phala chakra. He is above this because he is sthita in his complete Atma Swarupa Gnana. He is ajaha, avyaya, Atma Swarupa. And though he does not have to take birth because of karma. So God does not take birth because of the karma. In human birth, the root cause of the birth is ignorance, which is called avidya. And because of all this karma phala continues. Till this gets, by Atma Gnana, this gets destroyed, one cannot attain moksha. Whereas God incarnates not out of ignorance. He says clearly that how he takes birth, it is his own desire, his own Atma Maya, with his own Shakti, Maya Shakti, he takes birth. So he is not dependent on anything for birth. The human birth is by prarabdha karma, and this prarabdha karma is vyashti. Vyashti means our individual prarabdha, that is individual destiny, and samashti, a collective prarabdha. So all these, because that's why we are born to certain parents, we have relations, we have friends, and all this is our samashti prarabdha. Whereas individually our vyashti prarabdha is all the karmas that we have done in the past. That is why we have to take birth, to fulfill all this karma phala, to create some new karma. So this chakra keeps on going. But when God takes a birth, he incarnates. He has no individual prarabdha. There is no karma, but there is a samashti prarabdha, definitely. What is that samashti prarabdha? We will say in the next shloka that why he has to take yada hi dharmasya. So when this situation arises, then when the universal harmony gets distorted, disturbed, he has to take birth on this universe. And human birth is, there is a lot of kartrutva ahankara. We have a lot of ego doership feeling. Whereas God does not have any kartrutva. He is a shuddha aham. because he is sthita in his Atma Swarupa, and that's why he does not have any Kartrutva. So human beings are dependent for a lot of things. We have to take birth. We don't have independence on how, when to take birth, where to take birth, which species to take birth. We don't have any such control, or we are completely dependent on this system, how we have to take birth. Whereas God is independent. He can choose to take birth whenever he wants to, because he's above this karma phala. So in the 7th shloka he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. So in this 7th shloka, which is a very famous shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, God describes when does he take form on this earth, when does he incarnate. He says, oh Bharata. Bharata means light, and Arjuna was also born in this Bharata dynasty. That's why he is called Bharata. Yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati Bharata. He says, whenever there is decay of dharma, and dharma basically means right living, what is the correct way of living according to the Lord, what is the best way of living, if that gets decayed, and this is basically, this can happen only because dharma is protected by the people who follow this dharma, and those are the people called dharmi. So Lord takes birth to protect these dharmis who protect the dharma essentially, and this is what Lord says, abhyutthanam adharmasya. And whenever there is increase in adharma, whenever adharma increases, means the wrong way of living, people who are in vices, they live in the wrong way, which is not according to what maintains the universal harmony or balance. Essentially too much of violence, too much of egoism, or they try to be victorious over the dharmis, then to destroy the adharmis, who increase the adharma. So adharmis are the people who would live in such a way that they increase the adharma, and these are the people for destruction of such people. Says tat atmanam srujamyaham. Then this is the time when I manifest, or I take the human form. And the next shloka he says, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So God gives us 3 reasons for his incarnation. He says paritranaya sadhunam. The first reason is to protect and nurture the sadhu purush, the dharmi purush, basically who takes care of the dharma. So these are all the saints, the sages, the dharmis, if they are endangered, then that is the time when God takes birth. And the devotees also take the meaning that it is to give this darshana for the devotees, because that's how he takes birth, because his form is so beautiful that it attracts a lot of devotees, and that's why one of the reasons for devotees say is that Lord takes birth. Vinashaya cha dushkrutam means to destroy the adharmis, and dharma sansthapanarthaya. So dharma, to re-establish the dharma, so that this universal harmony, universal balance can be maintained and dharma can be re-established. That is sambhavami yuge yuge. He says, I incarnate. Yuge yuge does not literally mean that every yuga he takes birth, because there are 4 yugas according to our Shastra: the Satya Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. But it's not that Lord takes birth every yuga. He takes, sometimes in one yuga he may take several births also, and that is what he has done so far. So he incarnate, he says, we have to understand that whenever there is a need, he would it's according to his wish, that if he desires, he can incarnate or take form on this birth. So in any incarnation, there could be one or all of the 3 reasons, and in several incarnations so far, there could be one of the other reasons, but out of all the incarnations, the Krishna Avatara is considered to be the Purna Purushottam Avatara, when he has done almost all that he wanted to do in almost all the births. And there are several births, and it is said that, some people say that there are 24 births, some say that there are 36 births at avatars, but Mainly the Dasha Avatara, the 10 avatars are considered to be the most important for the Lord, and these are what are been described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the scripture where all these avatars have been described in details. Essentially, one of the reasons why God takes birth is that according to his grand vision, the human's birth is the way we can achieve the divinity. We can try and reach that goal, and that is the ultimate goal of the human birth according to the Lord. And this becomes easier if we go through this step of the sakar, which is the form, that God is in a form that we can see, because that is something that we can understand, we can see, we can identify, we can be one with that. And then from there we take it on to the Nirakar or the Nirgun, Nirakar, Brahma or Ishvara. So this is the step that we can take, which makes us easier. For us humans, it is much easier to go from Saguna to Nirguna rather than going directly to Nirguna, Nirakar, Parmeshwara. And bhakti is much easier for us human beings because we can see the Lord in the form, and from there we can go to the Jnana. So this step, Lord makes us, it's His grace, He is the ocean of mercy, is the Daya Sagara, and that's why He keeps mercy on the human beings, and that's why He incarnates, so that we can get an alamban and an identification with the form, and then from there we can go to the Atma Swarupa. So that is His grace with which He incarnates for the mercy of all the human beings at large. In the 9th shloka He says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sorjuna. So he says, one who understands my incarnation becomes free from this cycle of birth and death. So how is this possible? Let us understand what he's trying to say. He says, Janma karma cha me divyam. My janma and my karma are both divya, they are both divine. And we need to understand how is this possible. How is janma and how is karma? Bhagavan says they are divya, they are divine. We already saw earlier that he does not have to depend on anything for his janma. His janma is by his own desire, by his own wish, Atma Mayaya, his ajaha, api, avyaya, still he takes a birth or incarnates. And this is the divinity, that he is not parvasha, he is not dependent on the Maya. Whereas Jiv, even though he is born through Prakriti and Maya, he is Maya, he is in the vash, he is in the control of the Maya. Whereas Ishvara, even though he takes birth through Maya, his Maya is Sattva Guni Maya, pure Sattva. And that's why that is under the control of the Brahma. And that's why it's called Brahmashraya Maya. So Maya is under the control of the Ishvara. So that is the understanding, that is the difference between the human Janma and the God's Janma. And that's why it is a divine Janma. Even Lord is going to say how his karma is divine, because even though he takes birth, he is not bound to this earthly things. He is completely sthit in his Atma Swarupa. He is Akarta Swarupa. He knows completely whenever he takes doing a lot of karma. Say for example, Shri Krishna, he has done so many karma during his lifetime. Right from his childhood, when he was in Vrindavan, then he went to Mathura, became a king there, and then the Mahabharata war. He did so many karma. Finally went to Dwarka, became Dwarkadhish, and then so he did so many karma in his lifetime, but he does not get bondage to this karma because he is completely sthit in his Atma Swarupa. So that is the divinity. And he says, Evam yo vetti tattvataha, one who understands me completely, truly, in real essence, in real sense. Fundamentally, God is consciousness without a form. If somebody understands God in this way, and in this way understands that whenever I incarnate, my janma, karma, both are also divine, because I am divinity personified. That is what Lord says. Sa tyaktava deham, when he or she lives the body, punaha janama na eti, does not get rebirth. Means he attains me, he attains freedom, he attains moksha. And this is what Lord talks about, the videha mukti. Means this is, how is this possible? How is this possible? Mameti. He says they attain me, they attain moksha, they attain freedom, but they don't attain birth and death. And so this is something that Guruji only can teach us, that if the person, he understands the true spirit or essence behind Ishvara's Janma, Karma, his own Atma Swarupa, and then he keeps thinking about it, he can reach to that stage where he understands that he himself or she himself is also not this body, mind, sense complex, but is also the Atma Swarupa, which is the same, essentially that of the Ishvara's Atma Swarupa. So this Aikya Jnana, that Aham Brahmasmi, this Tattva, Tattvic knowledge, understanding, if one can get, what is Tattva? Tattvataha means Vastavik Swarupa, what talks about, God says, the real self. And this Tattva, according to our Shastra, is called Anaropitakara, means which cannot be identified to any form. Normally we get identified to our body, to some form, and we believe that we are this body, we are this name, we are this, this mind, this buddhi or our intellect. But essentially our own real self, we don't identify with that ourself, what is called as Atma or Atma Swarupa. And though this is unborn, ajanma, which is Amara, which is Sarva Vyapaka, omnipresent, but only with this understanding of the Shastra, the scriptures, our Upanishads and the Mahavakya, with this, if we learn from the Guru who is enlightened, who is already, has assimilated this knowledge, Gnaninaha and Tattvadarshinaha, with this Guru, when they give this kind of a knowledge about this, about the Mahavakyas of the Upanishads, then the individual can understand that I am not this limited human body form, but I am that eternal, that Sarva Vyapaka, that Brahma, who is omnipresent, omniscient, is, there is no difference, there is no change, it is unborn, it never dies. Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka, which is indestructible, and I am this consciousness itself, and I have just taken a human form. So with this understanding, one can achieve this ultimate goal of the human life, our human existence, to attain the Godhood, or to become one with the divinity, to the Almighty, and attain that state of moksha or liberation, getting freedom from all these worldly miseries and become one with the one in this universe. So in this fourth adhyaya of Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, Shri Krishna talks about renunciation of action through Jnana, how we can achieve Karma Sannyasa. And this should be through knowledge, the self-knowledge. And in today's session we talked about the Avatara Swarupa, when he takes Avatara, when God incarnates, why he does this, and what is the main purpose of his incarnations. Also started with the Guru Shishya Parampara, how it is getting lupta or Praya lupta, or it is getting, because of several reasons, it is getting less and less common, and how he takes the birth to revive dharma, to protect the dharmis, and to destroy the adharmis. And the next session we are going to discuss more about how Nishkam Karma and how God himself, what is his state, Namam Karma Limpanti Nama Karma Phale Spruha, how he says that how Arjuna should talk about he do karma just like his forefathers have done Nishkam Karma. And then he talks about the Gnani Purusha, the virtues, the Mahima of the Gnani, and then finally the Yagnas, and finally Guru and Gnan ki Mahima in the last session. So this is going to be our fourth adhyaya. Thank you very much. We'll stop with Guru Prarthana. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parah Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.